afternoon. Welcome to the meeting on June 21st, 2022. I'm calling the meeting to order at 4:02 p.m. and will entertain a motion and second to appoint Councilmember Brucci as the temporary chair for today's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. All right, I need a motion to go into special session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in special session. First is the approval of purchase of police cameras.
Madam, oh, sorry. Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for Mayor and Council approval of the purchase of police cameras. These cameras will be purchased from Spiker's Appliance and Security Technologies located in Hagerstown, Maryland. Spiker's Appliance and Security won the competitively bid City of Hagerstown bid proposal number P1742-22. The total purchase price is $27,826.80. Funding will come from the GOCCP grant, NCIN 2022-015, previously awarded to the City of Hagerstown.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of purchase of IA Pro Blue Team and public portal applications.
Mr. Mayor, I move for Mayor and Council approval of the purchase of IA Pro Blue Team and public portal applications. These programs integrate together to facilitate the public portal tracking requirement established under Maryland House Bill 670. Funding will come from available HPD funds and offset by a reduction in cost to a current system.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, coming out of the special session, going into the work session. First on the agenda is a preliminary agenda review. Stop me if you need to. Be called to order at 7 p.m. next Tuesday. We'll have the invocation given by Keisha, pledge of the flag, announcements, meeting schedules for July, or July 5th, 12th, and 19th. Well, 5th, there is no meeting. 12th and 19th, the work sessions at 4 p.m. and the 26th, the regular session at 7 p.m. We'll have some guests if I were mayor contested winners. It's always fun.
Yes.
We'll have a public hearing. And then, the Virginia Avenue annexation. Then we'll have the minutes of May 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th. Under the consent agenda, we have engineering. Number 1, to signal at Eastern at Frederick. Miscellaneous safety improvements, Milton Stamper Builders. City Park Band Shell improvements, PBI Commercial out of Hunt Valley. City Park Train Hub softball restrooms, Warner Construction out of Frederick, Maryland. Under Human Resources, Workers' Compensation Surety Bond, Safety National Corporation out of St. Louis, Missouri. Workers' Compensation Self-Insurance, Excess Liability Insurance, Safety National Casualty Corporation out of St. Louis, Missouri. Workers' Compensation Self-Insurance, TPA Services, PMA Management Corporation, Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. Under Information Technology, we have the annual Munis Support and Maintenance Agreement to Tyler Technologies. Kaseya Bitdefender Annual Software Renewal from Kaseya US LLC. Teletime Hosting Maintenance Agreement Renewal and Teletime Systems Corporation, Santa Ana, California. Also under utilities, we'll have light. We'll have the emergency purchase of wood utility poles. A. Meredith Schneider Company, LLC. Underwater ductile iron pipe, Core Main LP out of Martinsburg. Water 3/4 inch iPearl census meters. LB Water Services Incorporated, Chambersburg. Underwater emergency purchase, potassium permanganate. Univar Solutions USA Incorporated, Downers Grove, Illinois. Underwater water distribution supplies, Ferguson Waterworks out of Frederick, Maryland. Under wastewater, dumpster services, Republic Services, Hagerstown, Maryland. Under wastewater, oxygen system valves and actuators, Jaeger out of Reading, Pennsylvania. Any questions so far? There will be no unfinished business. That's good because we finished all of it. Under new business, introduction of an ordinance, conversion district overlay, 535 Summit Avenue. Introduction of an ordinance, local conversion district overlay, 245 North Potomac Street. Introduction of an ordinance, illicit discharge ordinance. Approval of resolution for fiscal year 2023 strategic demolition fund application. Approval of resolution parking lease for Rochester parking lot with administrative office of the courts. Approval of resolution user agreement with Halfway National Little League for use of Staley Park. Approval of the lease agreement with Marketplace LLC, 25 West Church Street. Approval of a resolution, grant agreement with the Maryland Energy Administration. Approval of renewal of memorandum of understanding with the Washington County Board of Education for school resource officers. Approval of HVAC service and maintenance agreement contract. And approval of fiscal year 2023 Invest Hagerstown grant program funding levels. Approval to convert 2 part-time Hagerstown Police Department positions to 1 full-time position. Approval of a non-union pay scale. Approval of the Hagerstown Police Department non-union pay scale. Approval of an amendment to the 1 memorandum of understanding for the miscellaneous safety improvements, safe route to school infrastructure project. Approval of approval of experience study through CBIZ Retirement Services. Approval of engineering capital projects program Bay Restoration Fund grant application for enhanced nutrient removal operation and maintenance. West City Administrative comments, Mayor and Council comments, and we will adjourn. Any questions? Fantastic. All right, up next is the annual police and fire pension review with CBIZ.
Good afternoon. Sitting to my right is Bill Carvin. Curtis Powell is on your screen over there. These gentlemen are from CBIZ Actuarial Services, who serve as the Police Fire Retirement Plan actuaries. They've worked with the city since 1998. Chris Little with PNC, who is the custodian of the funds, meets with the Police Fire Retirement Committee on a fairly regular basis to review investment performance. But these 2 gentlemen are really the actuaries, where the nuts and bolts of how much we make, how we're doing, and any problems that may come along. They're ultimately the guys that we go to ask those really, really technical questions. Without further ado, I'll just kind of turn it over to you gentlemen, and you're free to just kind of push on.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for having us today. What we wanted to do was go over the 2021 funding valuation that we did, and then talk about the experience study at the end of this presentation. I was hoping this was going to be on the screen.
Where's our IT folks?
Let me go.
There you go.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So one of the first things that we look at when we perform our evaluation, just to see has there been anything very unusual that's happened over the last couple of years as far as the number of participants in the plan, ages, years of service. And as you can see, things have been pretty steady over the last 3 years as far as the number of active participants, number of retirees, and those that have terminated and were vested in and haven't reached age yet where they could start drawing benefits. But we've seen stability in the number of participants. We've seen stability in average age, average service. So that helps bring some stability to the costs. Next, we're just looking just to give you an overview of the plan provisions. The normal retirement age to get full benefits out of the plan is age 62 or 25 years of service, whichever is earlier. If a participant wants to retire at age 50 or older, if they have 20 years of service, they can do so. They'll just be subject to a reduction for doing so. Benefits are based on the average salary of the highest 5 consecutive years, and the amount of benefits is a function of when someone was hired. If somebody was hired prior to July 1, 2018, we multiply 2% times their number of years of service times their average benefit to determine what they are entitled to receive at normal retirement age. If the date of hire is July 1st, 2018 or later, instead of multiplying by 2%, we multiply by 1.8%. The employee contribution rate is 9% of salary, and the city targets contributing 14% of pay each year. So each year we perform 2 different valuations. One is for financial statement purposes, and the other is to determine your funding requirements. It's 2 different approaches. But when we perform an annual valuation, it is based on the plan provisions, the membership data. That's why we took a look at that very early on. Plan asset information, because we have an expectation that assets will increase by 7.25%, and if it varies from that, that will impact your costs. It's based on our actuarial assumptions and then the cost methodologies used. When it comes to your financial statement, the valuation for financial statement purposes is kind of the accountants tell us how to do things. We don't have much flexibility. We have more flexibility when it comes to performing your funding valuation. And what we're doing as part of our evaluation process is we are determining the liabilities associated with what the benefits that have been accrued to date and what your liabilities are based on future promises made to your plan participants, and we kind of separate that out. And we use, as I mentioned earlier, totally different methodologies are used to determine your funding requirements compared to what's used for financial statement purposes. So what we're reviewing today is the funding requirements of the plan, and when in doing so, we want to look at the funding ratio, where we're seeing, all right, we look at the funding ratio in a couple of different ways. One is, what's the benefits that have been accrued to date as of July 1, 2021, based on the amount of service, based on salaries through that date, and what are the accrued benefits that each participant has accrued, and then what's the value of those benefits. We also look at what's the total benefits somebody should get if they work till retirement, and we see the liabilities associated with that. So there we're doing more projections. We're projecting out salary and service, and that will be a much higher liability. As I mentioned, current city rate is 14% of pay. And part of the process of what we do during the actuarial process is we look at what was the actual experience of the plan, and then what were our assumptions, and where did we differ. And we'll talk about the assumptions more later on. So we look at the funding ratio of the plan in a couple of different ways, as I mentioned earlier. When we look at what's the accrued benefits of the plan and the liabilities associated with that, we have a present value of about $49.6 million, with market value of assets being $26.7 million. We have a funding ratio of almost 54%. So that means the accrued benefits, about 54% of the benefits have been funded. Now, that is a significant improvement from the prior year, and that's because the investment performance for the year ended June 30, 2021 was extremely good. It was a very strong investment performance. Now, in the current year, the news isn't as good, so we'll probably be giving back some of those gains that we got for the year ended June 30, 2021. We'll probably be giving some back just because of the investment performance. And this has nothing to do with your investment advisors. There's simply nowhere to hide in the current environment. The stock market has been down this year, and with interest rates rising, as interest rates rise, the value of bonds decline. So there's a lot going on that creates some real headwinds. So the good news is we've had a very strong year that's improved things, and what's going to create a challenge is what's been going on in the markets over the last 12 months. We also determine your liabilities based on, the projection of all benefits that your participants will be entitled to. Those liabilities are $61.6 million. Once again, with assets of $26.7 million, that means you have funded about 43% of all benefit promises to the plan. And you can see that the impact of future salary increases and continued accruals that increases liabilities by about $12 million. Questions? So to look at the valuation results, the employer contributions were $1.4 million. The member contributions were $845,000. So there's $2.3 million of new dollars coming into the plan. Benefit payments were about $3.1 million. So an important item to note is prior to the impact of investment experience, there was negative cash flow of about $800,000. We'll see very shortly that we're expecting benefit payments to increase over the next 20 years or so substantially. So that's just something we want to keep an eye on. The good news is there was about $5.7 million of investment gain for the year, which more than offset the negative cash flow, leading to an increase in assets of almost $4.9 million. It was an extremely strong year, and as you can see, the investment return for the year was over 26%, and that really improved your results. So what we do to determine your contribution requirements is we look at what is the unfunded liability, and then we want to pay for that over a 25-year period of time. So the unfunded liability was about $37.3 million. The 25-year pay down of that unfunded liability is a little over $2.1 million. We add to that the expenses of the plan, so we've got a total cost of right around $2.2 million. We offset that by the anticipated employee contributions. So the county or the city contribution is about $1.2 million for the year, which is about 12% of payroll. The one thing I want to note is every year, the way we've been doing this is we've been recasting that 25 years and saying, all right, what's the 25-year payment? What we would suggest looking at is saying, all right, we're going to close that amortization period. So if this year it's 25 years, you've got to pay down the unfunded. Let's reduce it by a year each year, so that will help improve it. And it will lead to increased contributions, but at the same time, with the funding ratio of about 53%, we want to try to get on a path where that kind of gets where we can improve that funding ratio over time. So strong, just to kind of conclude, strong investment performance really improved the plan's financial strength. The funding ratio improved. The 14% is still consistent with the 25-year pay down of the unfunded liability. However, if we started to close that amortization period, like I said, we'd be on a path of potentially increasing the contribution requirements with the hope of improving that funded percentage. Just a concern, and as I've been doing my annual reviews lately, it's kind of a good news, bad news. We had a very good year, and it's being followed by a year in which there's been some real challenges in the markets, and that's probably going to have an adverse impact on your results when we do the 2022 valuation. So just to summarize where the contributions have been, employee contributions were 7% until the 2019 year was increased to 8%, and then as we added using accrued sick pay to the determination of benefits, the employee contribution went up to 9%. The city costs as a percentage of payroll, they've been consistently at 14%. For total cost, that's risen from 21 to 23% over time, which still is in excess of the currently actuarially determined contribution rate. To show the results on an annual basis of what we expect a 7.25% return on plan investments each year. As you can see, that would be the red line. The red bar is what we expect to earn. The blue bar is what we actually did earn, and as you can see, we had a very strong year. Something to note. So when we have a really good year for valuation purposes, we don't use the whole asset gain. We spread out the impact of the strong asset performance over 3 years. We also do the same with asset underperformance. So if we do have a down year in 2022, we'll spread the impact out over 3 years. And so as we're still recognizing some of the gains from this past year, hopefully that will offset some of the underperformance that we're expecting for this current year. But over time, you can see that over the last 5 years, you've averaged 11% return, and over the last 10 years, a 9% return. And then the 15-year average has been somewhat close to our expected return of 7.25%. This shows the projected benefit payments over time, and this is for your existing plan participants. It doesn't anticipate any new participants coming in, but you just get a sense of where cash flow is going out of the plan. Right now, the benefit payments have been a little over $3 million. We expect that to pretty much double over the next 20 years or so. That's why we're keeping a close eye on that funding ratio and trying to come up with methodologies that will try to improve that with the anticipated cash flow. So one of the things that we rely on heavily in performing an evaluation is we have to make assumptions as to what's going to happen in the future. And what we need to do is periodically is test those assumptions, because if we need a basis for the assumption. So what we periodically like to do is look in the past and say, what has happened over the last 5 years? What's been the probability somebody age 62 will retire? What's the probability somebody 35 years old will terminate employment? We look at what's been the average salary increases. We look at all that data and say, all right, what's been the actual experience of the plan? And we compare that to our assumptions, and we need to see, and we adjust our assumptions based on the actual experience of the plan. That's called an experience study when that's performed. So, number one, the more accurate, the more closely the assumptions reflect actual experience, it lowers volatility in the results each year. It is something that the actuarial standards of practices are looking at to make sure that's being done, and it's something that the auditors are going to be questioning. And so for all those reasons, we recommend that an experience study be performed. It's been about 10 years since an experience study has been performed, so it is time, and we would suggest that one be performed. And like I said, I think it will put your auditors at ease, and it will, the goal would also be to stabilize the liability calculations from year to year. Our fee to perform such an experience study is $12,000. We need to commence that study if we want to be able to use it for the current valuation cycle as of July 1, 2022. We need to start that study within the next couple of weeks. That's would be our suggestion, and like I said, a way of just providing rationale for what we're doing on the assumption side. I will be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Normal experience studies are done every 3 to 5 years, so we're pretty far behind at this point when it comes to that study. No questions, then I guess what I'm asking is for your approval to move forward with the experience study.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lease agreement with Marketplace LLC.
Thank you very much. I have physical copies of the lease that were not part of the public, not part of the public packet on notice, so just wanted to hand those out to you guys as well. Thank you. I get tongue tied all the time. so
Right.
we're thinking-
Name another one.
Well, we can need the rest of the packets too. All right. Thank you guys so much. So here to talk about getting a lease agreement in place with Marketplace LLC at the 25 West Church Street property as we are continuing to finalize the sale process and move forward with everything. The lease would go into effect June 29th after the regular session if approved, and would continue through the end of the year and terminate early once the sale is finalized. Happy to answer any kind of questions. All right. Thank you.
Engineering and Capital Projects Program.
It's a pretty colored shirt.
Thank you. This one's pretty easy. Since 2018, we've received bay fee dollars back to the city. It's the bay fee charge you see on your water and sewer bills. So the state put the program in place, and of course, the application's in here because this is for a grant. We just need mayor and council blessing to move forward with requesting that this money come back to the city. 18, 19, and 20, we received $240,000, and in 21, of course, we received just under $406,000. I won't know this year what we'll receive. It'll be at least 240, and it could exceed the 400,000. We won't know until everything, the state receives everything back in its process. So, just letting you go.
Sounds good to me. Yep.
Very good.
Go for more. Beat that. Yeah, beat that
I'm
400,000.
gonna try.
Well done, Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, since we are postponing until July the
I think it's whatever the first meeting is in July, yeah.
July 12th.
12th.
Right. Number 5, social agency efforts. I'll ask for a city administrator's comment.
It's like riding a bike up here, isn't it?
Telling you,
Look at you, Bob.
Man.
You know what you're doing.
an hour early.
Even, right?
Just a couple things. Imagine Hagerstown, we have our Friday night event on the 24th from 5 to 8. Opening band is the Twisted Blues Band, and the headliner is Silent Old Mountains, two good groups. If you YouTube them, you can see an example of what kind of music they play, and they're very good. That's in University Plaza on Friday night, Farmers Market on Saturday. And just like to thank the staff that attended MML Summer Conference last week, Brittany Arizmendi, Amy Riley, Cassie Hirschberger, and Doug Reeser. We actually had a booth down there for the first time in many, many years, and it received many great comments on the projects and all that we're doing here, and just want to thank them on being such great representatives of the city, as well as those that attended here at the table. So that's it for me.
Keisha.
I just want to say congratulations to Madam Mayor for being elected to the MMM Board of Directors at Large. And then also on Sunday, open mic at the Black Box Studio, hosted by myself and Camilla Rose, who likes to go by Millie Mills. So open mic, if you have a poem or if you know anybody that has a poem they would like to share, please come. Yeah, I wasn't trying to talk to Councilmember Alshire, but if you know any poets,
You should feel real outnumbered right
I'll
now.
ask around. I'll ask around.
that's it.
Just a question, I was reading through the materials here. So for the approval to renew the memorandum of understanding with the Washington County Board of Education, just so I understand it clearly, the way it works is the Board of Education pays the city of Hagerstown to receive the public safety service from the Hagerstown Police Department.
That's correct.
So they pay extra to get that service from the
Correct.
city. Okay.
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 I just, given other conversations we
Feels like there's
had,
more to that.
there isn't, I just was trying to figure out that, if an entity wants that specialized service outside of its normal service area applicability, they pay an amount to receive that service. Just curious.
Wow.
Well, I know that the Board of Education would like for the county to pick up that cost, considering they're all county schools. But that has yet to happen, so. But I get where you're going. I'm picking up what you're throwing down. Is that it?
That's it.
I'm picking up what you're
Karen.
talking down.
Just one comment. Earlier today, this afternoon, Councilmember Martinez and I attended the ribbon cutting at Vibes Lounge here in downtown Hagerstown. And if everyone's aware, we have so many ribbon cuttings lately. Just a true testament of how everyone is investing in their community, and looking forward to seeing more. Thanks.
Me too.
All right.
I don't have anything.
Nothing? All right, well, while everybody else was out frolicking in the sun and the sand and the
For heaven's
ocean,
sake.
I was here stuck in Hagerstown, and I was honored to attend the opening night of Juneteenth and read the proclamation in place of the mayor. So it was a good turnout. So I was very happy to do that for my good friend Alicia Parson Bean. So anyway, that's really all I have. Madam Mayor, if you're watching, take note. We're 55 minutes early, so we're closing out. Have a good week. Get better. Thanks. We're adjourned.